Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke John Wick propaganda ripoff gets destroyed at the box office. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Breitbart, woke Monkey Man disappoints at the box office. Monkey Man is the name of the John Wick ripoff. And from the Daily Wire, Hollywood's woke propaganda machine leaves viewers scrambling for older shows. And of course, this is all part of a larger agenda. This is from CNN Entertainment. This group is working behind the scenes to change the stories you see on TV. That goes all the way back to October 2020. They have been doing this for a long time. And from Just the News, groups coordinate with hundreds of media outlets to push climate crisis in the news and entertainment. From Breitbart, woke Monkey Man disappoints at the box office. Monkey Man was supposed to be the next John Wick. Instead, it's just one more piece of woke garbage that failed to perform anywhere near expectations. Monkey Man was projected to open at $15 million to as high as $20 million. Instead, it crash landed well below that with just a $10 million opening. The budget for Monkey Man was only $10 million. Not a major budgeted movie. It's a different kind of failure than, say, The Marvels. However, that number is below what they wanted, and of course what they were hoping was the movie would catch on, it would get strong word of mouth, people would say, hey, this is like John Wick, except it pushes our agenda, so hey everyone, go see the movie. Didn't work out that way. None of us have ever seen a lot of marketing and promotion for this movie Monkey Man, so it's not like they're losing a fortune, it's just going down in flames. So what killed the Monkey Man movie? Maybe all the transvestites in Monkey Man turned off normal people because mostly the world is made up of normal people? Here's how the next John Wick was advertised. Quote, Monkey Man is far more successful at exploring sexuality in the group via a group of transgender women who teach the kid how to harness his pain into power, according to the far left New York Times. Quote, the Hijra community is a society of intersex, trans, and other third-generation groups who live across South Asia, largely removed from wider society. Star, director, and co-writer Dev Patel, quote, said that it was important for him to represent this community as a form of solidarity. Solidarity with what? We have no idea. Quote, the main protagonist, Kid, joins a group of trans and gender non-conforming characters to fight the elite oppressing them. As the brilliant John Nolte said, who wrote this article, guys in dresses should be used for comic relief, not normalized. Also, in order to be successful, movies and stories should be based on a foundation of truth. So the idea that transsexuals fight oppression rather than spread oppression is way too much disbelief for normal people to suspend. You can't suspend your disbelief of something that's way outside of reality. We all know the transsexual mafia is the biggest group of bullies around today. Bullying our language, bullying the truth, bullying biological fact, and bullying us into accepting something that is neither normal, moral, or healthy in the spiritual or physical sense. He goes on to say, if I want to watch a guy in a dress kick ass, I'm going to watch Dick Shaw in Angel from the 1984 movie. He's both sympathetic and hilarious. There is nothing sympathetic about the transsexual movement. To portray them as underdogs is a total lie, a clown move, and utterly dishonest. There is no doubt that within this group, there are sympathetic individuals, but as a group, they are obnoxious cry bullies. And what is a cry bully? A cry bully is a person who engages in intimidation, harassment, or other abusive behavior while claiming to be a victim. And here's the big question. Why inject all of this nonsense in a movie aimed at the general public in a genre movie? It's insane, especially if you're looking to launch a franchise, which seems to be the case here. Normal people are made uncomfortable when sexual fetishes are normalized. We're not wired to sit there and swallow this propaganda. We go to the movies, especially genre movies, to escape the day's nonsense, not to pay $20 to have it shoved down our throats. Pink News loves this movie. Dev Patel's Monkey Man shines a light on India's Hijra communities. I had never heard of Hijra communities before this story. Now I know everything about them. Well, not everything, but more than I need to know. The Indian subcontinent has been home to Hijras for over 2,000 years, communities of gender nonconforming people and trans women. They're even mentioned in the ancient text, the Kama Sutra, where they're referred to as the third sex. And if you want to know what they're doing in the Kama Sutra, you're going to have to watch another video for that, or search it on Google. From the Daily Wire, Hollywood's propaganda machine leaves viewers scrambling for older shows. There's a reason some of the biggest streaming hits are often 10 or more years old. The Hollywood that produced Friends, The Office, Parks and Recreation, and Seinfeld wanted one thing: to entertain and, by extension, bag big ratings. Today's Hollywood is different, so says the general public, which just dramatically noted that modern films are worse than they were just a decade ago. We covered that in another video. Reissues of classic films like Hocus Pocus sometimes lap newer titles at the box office. What's changed? You might pin some of the blame on propaganda. While many modern TV shows and movies remain apolitical and free of culture war fallout, many others embrace the new shift. Not only are today's storytellers eager to insert their progressive agendas into new projects, but the industry calls upon groups tasked with helping them to do just that. The stories in question often suffer as a result, forcing viewers to scramble for older product. The same thing is going on in video games. It's been going on in comic books. There are these outside groups that push progressive agendas on anything and everything. It's not just diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's trying to secretly create a normalization of their far-left radical ideas. The stories in question often suffer as a result, forcing viewers to scramble for older product. A new report from Just the News shared how Good Energy Stories works with Hollywood to insert political messages regarding climate change into television, film, and media. It's unclear how many studios or screenwriters have tapped the group's resources, but it's hard not to notice how its preferred themes infiltrate movies and TV shows. There's even a term used now for fictional stories with climate change themes. Cli-fi, as in sci-fi, but climate fiction. From smith.edu, Climate in Arts and History, promoting climate literacy across disciplines. Promoting climate, that's propaganda. Climate fiction, what is cli-fi? Cli-fi, short for climate fiction, is a form of fiction literature that features a change or changing climate. It is rooted in science fiction, but also draws on realism and the supernatural. Well, that's what we need to know. That's why it's hard to even enjoy entertainment anymore, because it's all full of this kind of nonsense. This is self-serving, but I do have to say it. If you're not buying content from an independent creator who speaks openly about how they are not affected by this kind of propaganda, you might not want to support that content, because the major companies are out there pushing this. Even small independent films like a $10 million John Wick ripoff called Monkey Man might not even exist if it wasn't there to push propaganda. Did they have to include these Hijras in their story for the story to be good? No, I'm sure they didn't have to. But would it even have been funded and made if it wasn't to try to persuade you that it's normal for these people to run around as Hijras? I'm not even going to say it is or it isn't normal. It's not normal for me. But it's not why you're going to buy a movie ticket. You're just going to have a good time and relax. But the people at propaganda don't want you having a good time, and they definitely don't want you to relax. TV and film characters routinely name drop global warming, climate change, and similar phrases, even when the stories have little to do with the environment. The hard feminist comedy Barbie, for example, featured this line. And if you saw Barbie, the line does stand out. I was like, what are you talking about? Why is this there? Here's the line. You set the feminist movement back 50 years. You destroyed girls' innate sense of worth, and you're killing the planet with your glorification of rampant consumerism. Okay. Consider this bloated line of dialogue from Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. The next world war isn't going to be a cold one. It's going to be a ballistic war over a rapidly shrinking ecosystem. It's going to be a war for the last of our dwindling energy, drinkable water, and breathable air. Your days of fighting for the greater good are over. Other movies like Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom directly address eco-concerns. If a film doesn't name-check climate change, it might embrace other parts of the progressive agenda, like open border policies. For that, Define American stands ready to advise eager screenwriters. The group, formed by illegal immigrant Jose Antonio Vargas, says it consulted on 75 film and TV shows as of 2021. Since then, we've seen more fictional stories pushing an open borders narrative like 2023's Unseen documentary and Fox's The Cleaning Lady series. The upcoming Zoe Saldana drama, The Absence of Eden, suggests yet another sympathetic portrait of undocumented immigrants. Here's the official synopsis. The Absence of Eden takes place at the border between the United States and Mexico, where Esme, a young woman working as a private dancer in Mexico, is forced to commit a violent act of self-defense that results in the death of a cartel member. She flees her homeland for the sanctuary of the United States. Before crossing the border, the mother is taken from the group, and Esme promises to protect her daughter and help them reunite again in America, touching off an interlocking story about people struggling to survive on America's border with Mexico. Hollywood also loves gun control narratives, despite cranking out endless action films teeming with so-called gun violence. For that, screenwriters can turn to Everytown for Gun Safety, a group that regularly canoodles with Hollywood talent to inject their narratives into stories we see. Its creative council, including Oscar nominee Julianne Moore, has a long history of shaping Hollywood stories. The Netflix drama House of Cards created a storyline tied to a new gun law that steered viewers to an Everytown website sharing similar messaging. Films like 2016's Miss Sloane, which lean heavily on outside consultants to shape its gun-centric storyline, offer more blatant examples of the collaborations in play. The University of Southern California joined the movement, producing a handbook last year for Hollywood creatives to follow. Trigger warning, gun guidelines for media. Quote, provides guidance on how TV shows, movies, and even news shows should approach issues such as officer-involved shootings, gun storage, mass shootings, school shootings, and partner violence. Hollywood's woke revolution offers another propaganda-like product. Gender swap stories abound, becoming so commonplace it's now a source of mainstream ridicule thanks to South Park. And then there's late-night TV, often indistinguishable from DNC talking points. The line beyond comedian and White House press secretary blurred beyond belief recently when the Late Show host Stephen Colbert took part in a Biden fundraising soiree. Colbert's appearance didn't surprise anyone. The far-left host relentlessly uses his CBS show's platform to attack Republicans, deify Democrats, and ignore stories that paint progressives in an unflattering light. He's joined to varying degrees by fellow late-night hosts Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, John Oliver, and Jimmy Fallon, and Comedy Central's The Daily Show offers a rotating lineup of far-left comedians who essentially do the same. Their propaganda-riddled monologues inspired the birth of a new phrase, clapter, meaning jokes meant to draw more applause than laughter. That's not comedy or entertainment. That's propaganda. And sadly, it's got plenty of company in Hollywood. And until Google decides to change it because it might not reflect well on people in power, here's their definition of propaganda. Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. If these propaganda companies are going to exist at all, there should be a warning throughout the presentation of the show or the newscast that they have been influenced by these groups, that they are there pushing a message. We see that with news articles that were paid for. They're really like infomercials promoting a political agenda. From Just the News, groups coordinate with hundreds of media outlets to push climate crisis in news and entertainment. Good Energy Stories and Covering Climate Now, whose partners represent an audience of 2 billion people worldwide, are funded by multiple anti-fossil fuel groups and shape a uniform narrative of impending doom. Ahead of the Easter weekend, multiple media outlets reported that chocolate prices are soaring, and according to the coverage, the main culprit driving the inflating costs is climate change. Across multiple platforms, the reports followed a similar message, using similar language to describe the problem and its causes. And the reports all came out the same week. Quote, Easter egg prices soar as cocoa crops are hit by climate crisis and exploitation. According to The Guardian, reporting that on Good Friday. The article blames the shortage of cocoa, which is used to make chocolate, on rising prices of fertilizers, deforestation, illegal mining practices, and extreme weather events. The article doesn't provide any details on these alleged events, but it does mention El Nino, which is a warming of the ocean surface in the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. It causes changes in weather patterns during the cycle. This cycle was recorded long before carbon dioxide emissions were a factor in the atmosphere. An NPR segment, which also ran on Good Friday, interviewed its business correspondent, who said, quote, farmers there in the Ivory Coast and Ghana have been facing extreme weather, changing climate patterns, which have decimated crop harvests. NPR provided no data or sourcing for the environmental claims. Writing in The Conversation, reporter Jack Marley's headline suggests that climate change may be the culprit, and he then goes on to write that food production globally is facing an increasingly hostile climate. While African cocoa farmers in 2023 may have had a bad year, crop data doesn't show any downward trends in African yields. Between 2007 and 2022, cocoa yields actually went up. This is true for many crops in many regions across the world, including rice, soybeans, wheat, and corn. This data is easy to find, but not a single article on rising chocolate prices in any of these media outlets mention this mitigating data. Their goal here is shaping a uniform narrative. The Guardian, NPR, and The Conversation are among hundreds of media outlets associated with or listed as partners with an organization called Covering Climate Now, which encourages reporters to insert climate crisis narratives into all their stories. Covering Climate Now boasts partnerships with hundreds of major media outlets across the world. According to CCN, its partners have a combined audience of 2 billion people, 1/4 of the globe's population, in 57 countries. The group provides advice to reporters on all beats to not only insert a climate crisis narrative into every beat, but also how to cover the topic. This includes telling journalists not to platform what it calls denialists, which include anyone who ridicules climate activists or suggests that climate change is not producing a global emergency. The site is full of tips on what language to use, how to write headlines, and suggested stories for journalists to cover, all in line with an anti-fossil fuel message. It suggests avoiding fake experts. To determine the value of experts a reporter might interview, CCN points them to the activist website DeSmog, which demonetizes anyone, even those on the left, who in any way dispute the climate crisis narrative. The Covering Climate Now section on solutions to what it says is an indisputable crisis leaves no room for fossil fuel use, even though experts say that rapidly eliminating them is not only unrealistic, it would necessitate the collapse of civilization. I don't think they have a problem with the collapse of civilization. Everything they push, if you followed it, even if you followed a third of what they're pushing, would collapse civilization. They're getting rid of farms and farmers wherever they can globally. They say they want to get rid of fossil fuels. All of these things are not just impractical. It would be the end of civilization. Quote, hitting that 2050 target will require rapidly phasing out oil, gas, and coal burning, reversing deforestation, shifting from the current industrial model of agriculture to climate-friendly farming methods, and much more, the CCN section states. Sri Lanka tried to do that. They tried to switch to climate-friendly farming methods, and it did not work out so well. The organization encourages reporters to make statements attributing extreme weather to climate change, even in the absence of any data to support the claims. Quote, even in the absence of explicit attributional data, it's accurate to say that climate change is making extreme weather more common and more severe, CCN tells its partnered media organizations. It then provides tips on language journalists can use to blame extreme weather on climate change for any story. Contrary to CCN's advice, attributing extreme weather to climate change in many instances goes against what the research shows. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, a United Nations consortium of the world's leading climate scientists, finds little in the way of trends regarding floods, droughts, hurricanes, and tornadoes, much less a signal that could attribute trends to human-caused climate change. This propaganda is everywhere now. Anywhere there's influence, there is going to be propaganda. It's very difficult to trust companies, whether it's Bud Light, Target, or Disney, or your local news, if you know they're out there taking the influence they have, taking the trust that they have, and using it to push propaganda. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.